All right, everybody, welcome to our first podcast. We're straight off of the first episode of JSR The Traders. It was a wild episode. We got to meet everybody. But before we get into the episode, let's talk about who's here with us. I'm Jeremy, the host, and I'm so excited to see you guys this season. I'm going to introduce you to next Charlie.
Hey, I'm Charlie, JSR, 15, 17, 19, All-Stars 2, 31. I don't remember all the seasons that I've been on. I also host JSR The Challenge, and I'm really excited to continue to watch this season with you guys. And yeah, and then I'll pass it over to Emily.
All right, hey y'all. I have not played as many seasons as Charlie. I've played JSR 24, JSR Survivor 1, and then I'm currently still in the final of Carlos's game 3 months later. Let's go.
Ooh.
Excited to discuss with all of you guys.
All right.
And I'm Ava. I am a JSR Big Brother one-time alumni, season 32, 33, and the winner of JSR Challenge USA 2. And I had no involvement in the show, just a mere viewer.
Yes, so we decided to bring Ava on board for this podcast this season because us three hosts, we were at the show. We know what happens for the most part. So we wanted to get a fresh perspective, and Ava knows a lot of the cast already. So we feel like she has some good insight to offer us.
Mhm.
A little bit about the game, the traders. There's two. We started off with Keisha and Carson, and we'll talk
Okay.
about that first. How do we
Yeah,
feel
let's break
about
down
those
Keisha and
traders?
Carson.
How about those traders? Did
How
you guys
about those?
randomize them or did you all handpick them?
So we did handpick these traders this season. Will that be the same for every season? No. But we did decide and go into it picking them this time.
Mhm.
Um,
We
we
discussed almost everyone on the cast at one point. I think that was probably our hardest decision, was who we were going to pick, because I think we both kind of agreed, or all three of us agreed, that we wanted some kind of like contrasting personalities within the traders. And if you look at the cast, there could be nobody that is more completely opposite than Keisha and Carson. Like we have Keisha, who's a Black woman and is, I think she's an attorney, right, in Chicago. And then we have Carson, who is a white boy from Texas. So, they're so different. And their game styles are also so different.
even in their first introductions to each other, Carson or Keisha said to Carson, like, we just got to take it easy, just be chill. And then Carson was like, I don't know if you've seen me play, but I'm the complete opposite.
And he is. Carson is a JSR Big Brother winner, and he's also a multi-time challenge finalist. So he has the ability to go far into games, but he is that kind of chaotic, kind of jester type of player where he gets all that attention on himself. But he's also not afraid to like cut people. I think Carson's one of the most like willingly cutthroaty people that I've seen play. So I feel like that's going to be an interesting dynamic within the traders.
Right.
I've played with Keisha a few times outside of this community, and I would say that's the one thing her and Carson have in common. Well, it's not Keisha's number one strategy going into games is being that like very outspoken, like willing to throw people under the bus player. If she has her back against the wall or knows that she's headed into a position where that's where she's going to end up, she's very quick to be like, "No, I am targeting you. I am thinking you're a traitor. This is." I'm sure I will probably see that in the season, but from my experience, I have been on the other side of that. She has thrown me multiple times. We've been each other's cause of elimination in every single game we've played together. So I definitely think that once they get on the same page with that, they'll be able to do really, really well.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see Keisha here. Keisha, she was so robbed in JSR 23. So I always wanted her back on another season. So to get her back for the traders and to make her a trader,
And
uh,
she's also a big fan favorite. She's like everyone's really excited to see her. I think when she was playing JSR 23, she was also a really big fan favorite. Like a lot of people were really rooting for her. So I'm really excited to kind of see this kind of resurgence of Keisha and see how she does.
and well, speaking for both the traders, there was a comment that I saw from our JSR 28 winner Kenzie, and before the season even aired, she said Carson would be a horrible trader. So, Ava, what do you think about that? Do you think he'd be a horrible trader?
I don't know. Carson was actually my first ever alliance.
I was gonna bring that up. I was gonna say Carson was Ava's pretty much first alliance member that she's ever worked with in a game before on JSR The Challenge Free Agents.
Yeah, so I've known Carson for just as long as I've been on Discord. I love him. I think where Carson will run into trouble is that big personality that he has. I think the biggest season that I've seen him be that way was JSR The Challenge All Stars. He was constantly in elimination because he wasn't afraid to go against the majority. He wasn't afraid to voice his opinions. So I think people will either take that if he's playing similar in this game as like a hard vouching faithful, or they're going to catch on to it very, very quickly and think he's trying to play too aggressive. So I think that's where he could get into a little bit of trouble just with how open he chooses to be. But I think for the most part, he's very smart. He knows how to navigate very well, even though he was vocal and targeted in All Stars the season I referenced. He did make it to the final. So I think he knows how to manage his threat level to a certain degree. But in a game of social deception where it's not heavily comp reliant, I think that, again, is where he would run into the most trouble.
Mm-hmm. And Emily, you were in JSR Viber with Carson, and you guys were in an infamous alliance together. Is your experience similar to that?
Yes, interestingly, a lot of that group is also in this season of the Traders, so I
Yeah,
won't get into
we'll
it
get to
too
them
much.
too.
Yeah, but yeah, Carson was always a little thorn in my side. I want to say it was either week 2 or 3. I'm in a tribe of 5 with him and a few others also playing this season. And I agreed to vote him out, him thinking I was working with him. I wasn't. Tried to vote him out. He didn't go home. And then I was stuck on a tribe with him. And that was a trip to say. He came to me and he was not happy. So yeah, when you target him and you're not successful, you end up getting into a little bit of trouble there. So I'm curious to see if the people who try and go after Carson, if they kind of have the same troubles I did with him. It'll be interesting to see.
Right.
All right.
I think it's really interesting that Emily brought up JSR Survivor just because she was on that season. For the viewers that don't know, this season was filmed like right after we had our Discord season JSR Survivor. And so we brought on a lot of those cast members onto the season so we can start with them because they're a big part of our cast right now, and surround a lot of the relationships that kind of stepped into this game early on, if we kind of want to go over those cast members too.
Yeah, definitely. So
Sure.
the members of this cast who are also on JSR Survivor, we have Theo, we have Sky, we have Nick, we have we have Alicia, we have Justice, we have Carson. I think we have Bill
Bill.
too. Yeah. So
Mhm.
it's a big chunk of this cast.
It's a big chunk of the cast.
Did they all work together in JSR Survivor? No, not necessarily.
A lot
So
of them kind of hated each other in that game.
yeah, things got pretty heated. So it would be interesting to see if any of that carried over.
Mhm.
But that is a thing that might be a case for Carson too. He has these potential connections. But let's go over some of maybe the traders' connections, and then we'll speak generally for the cast.
Mhm.
But
So we
outside,
know that Carson and Nick have worked together in the past on challenge seasons, and they were allies also on JSR Survivor. Nick is a Big Brother winner, and
All-Star winner, Big
he
Brother
is
All-Star winner.
he is an infamous player. I think he has one of the best social games that we've seen a JSR alumni play, and yeah, I think he is very good at sitting back and collecting information and saying the right things when he needs to. But I think where Nick kind of goes a little bit astray is he relies too much on those pre-existing connections. Oftentimes, I think that could be his detriment is that he's going to be too trusting in this game of the relationships that he's had in the past, and that might bite him in the ass a little bit.
Well, what do you think about Nick and Norris's little interaction in that episode?
That is right. We also had Norris on this cast who was on All Stars with us. And he was also on Nick's original season, which was JSR 25. And they kind of like got really into it in the jury phase, because Nick was kind of like one of the bigger threats on that season. And once it started getting down to the wire, they really were trying to target each other. And I don't remember who got evicted first. But yeah, so there is some tension there. I'm not sure where that's going to go this season.
Mm-hmm. Well, moving
Go and
on.
talk- Oh, okay.
Yeah, do you have any comments on Nick? Anybody? Nick?
I played with Nick a lot.
Nick and Norris, I guess we can talk about.
Like all the time. I personally don't know Norris. They're one of the few people on the cast that I have no prior knowledge of, so I'm excited to get to know them as a player and as a character. But with Nick, I definitely agree with what you said. His social game is actually like insane. It's actually terrifying, like when you play with him. He's very similar to another very infamous player, I would say Iman, where people always know the threat level of this player when they're coming in, but somehow they still make it like super deep, and you're like, we all should have known better. Like, why are they still here?
Right.
But I think one thing I'm very excited to see Nick do this season is I've never seen him play a live game. So I know like in like submission games like JSR the Challenge, he's very big on like VCing, and he takes a lot of time to really develop like personal relationships, and he kind of lets the game follow that. So he builds your trust on that first. So I'm excited to see how he develops these relationships in real time, especially knowing this was a 1 day game. It wasn't like we film tonight, you have tomorrow to talk in Discord, we'll film tomorrow. It was all happening right then and there. So I'm excited to kind of see how his game from submission games translates here. I think this is something that I just had a pregame like little thought about. I totally thought you guys were going to pick him as a trader. I feel like a lot of people probably.
And why would you think that he would be a good trader?
I never said I thought he'd be a good trader. I said I thought you guys would pick him as a trader.
Okay.
I think, I mean, yeah, as being one of, if not the biggest JSR alumni name on the cast, I feel like going into this, it'd be like, oh, like, okay, Nick, we know he performs well. We know he knows how to like maneuver through these situations and social deception games. So I just think as long as he can manage his pre-existing threat level management, if he comes in here, and I know he has some really great allies on the cast, especially Sky. So if he leans heavy on her, I think again we'll probably see him make a deepish run unless Carson and Keisha clock that team. Maybe.
Do you want to introduce? Does one of you guys want to talk about Sky?
Yeah, let's segue into Sky actually, because Sky is another person who is very well connected on this cast, not only through JSR Viver, but just in general.
She knows a lot of these people.
Yeah.
Like I know her and Bill are close, her and Nick. I mean, who else does she know on this cast? Theo. I mean, all the JSR.
Mm-hmm.
But she's another big social threat, and
she's
so good at talking to people. She's so good at telling you what you want to hear, and like I know if you play games with her, she'll be like, sending voice notes instead of texting. She makes everything very personable and connects with everyone really easily.
Yeah.
You guys agree with that?
And she is another who can make deep runs into seasons as well. I think that one weakness that Sky kind of has is that she doesn't oftentimes fully believe in herself. Like she's oftentimes like really down on like what she thinks that she can achieve. She's a 2-time challenge finalist back to back. Like, and placing second and almost second and or third both seasons, and didn't do that bad on JSR Viver. Like she's not just somebody that can just pass along as a sheep. She's a really prominent, powerful player, and I feel like she oftentimes doesn't believe in herself, and that comes to her detriment.
I think that comes from her not being a very initiative person. I think she, like you said, focuses on those social bonds, and I think this is where her and Nick really get their bond from. Is I think their strategy is very similar, and they let their social game really do the heavy lifting, and then the strategy follows. And I think she can get in her head a lot because she's not the strategist. She's not the one who's making the moves or like having the ideas for them. She's playing along with them. From my experience, the last game I played with her was forever ago with Emily in the Island All Stars or whatever season that was. But yeah, I think I was her partner in that for a pretty long time. So I feel like I have a pretty good insight on her game, and I think the strategy is where she lacks that confidence. But I think if she can lock in for a little bit and just trust in that, I think we'll see her perform really well, especially alongside Nick.
Well, it's kind of funny that you say that because we kind of already see that happening in this first episode. We saw Baylor go into the breakout room and say, "Oh, it's kind of weird that Danny went for the shield," and immediately Sky jumped on that, and it started the whole Danny counter thing. So I think
That's one thing about Sky is she's not going to be afraid to be like, "You did this,"
Yeah.
She's going to speak her mind. So she's like, "Oh, we're talking shit. Well, I'll say what I have to say."
I've played with Sky. I don't play much anymore, but I think the last 3 games I've played, Sky has played every single one of them with me. And we're usually like pretty similar playing styles, but like one way that I think Sky is like she's not afraid to like call people out on their shit. So like if she thinks like you did her dirty or you're targeting her, like she's gonna let you know. Like JSR Survivor, her and Brandon had like an infamous rivalry, probably one of the funniest of the season. So like she's not afraid to like make her presence known. And I think that's why Sky's a fun player, whether she goes early or goes far, like she's always gonna be like a main character, I would say.
Right. And then from JSR Survivor, we had Bill and Theo. Do we want to talk about Bill and Theo?
Yes, definitely.
Bill went pretty early on JSR Survivor. I think he was like 3rd or 4th boot, I believe.
Yep, me and Bill voted in the minority and tried to get Carson out of there. Didn't work.
And Bill got second place. He got second place on JSR The Challenge Season 10. So he kind of has some mixed stats here. We really don't know what to expect from Bill, just because from the 2 JSR seasons we've seen him on, he's done really well and he kind of flopped a little bit.
Well, one thing I know was
but I love Bill. I think Bill has a great personality. I think that he's really good at really just like making people feel comfortable. I feel like it's his strength is just that you are my friend. Like I am interested in being your friend in this game, because he's just such a friendly person. It's just like a goofball. He's that very kind of like Johnny Mac character of the season.
Well, I thought it was interesting too to kind of relay back into connections. In the traders talk, when they were talking about who to recruit, Keisha made it a point to say she didn't want to recruit Bill because she knew him. So I'm interested to see how that plays out into the season, if it means something, if it doesn't mean something. But
yeah,
I know Bill also really wanted to be a trader. So
he did.
That sucks that Keisha is automatically no. But who knows what can happen?
I think that is like an outstanding choice by Keisha to keep Bill as a faithful. I don't think Bill's experience in the JSR community essentially is going to be his biggest upper hand. I think coming from the live games on Twitter, which is where I met him, strategic aspects specifically, knowing how to maneuver those relationships in this type of format, having that upper hand on people who have never done stuff like this is huge, because you can't take your time in these games, really. You can't just wait around for things to happen. You need to start and like go make these bonds like as soon as possible, because time is very, very limited, especially with nighttime. And I don't know if you guys are doing bedrooms or whatnot, but just things like that. Something to note with the relationship with Keisha, I'm almost 100% positive that every single season that they played a strategic aspect, they also played together. A lot of the times, however, it ended up with them on different sides of the game because of someone who will not be named.
But it might have been Ava.
Might have been me, but I don't know. But I think Keisha knows that if she, because of how loyal he was to our side of the game every time we played together, that if she can get an in with him, that's going to be huge. And one thing about Bill is he is extremely loyal, and most of the time he's loyal to a fault, and that's why he goes home in these games. And so I think that Keisha is smart enough to know that if she can latch herself onto him, that he's going to be a really, really great ally, not only to her, but just to the traders as a like entity, in my opinion.
And then we have Theo. And Theo is an alternate king. I feel like
it wasn't shown much.
But he's always willing to come in, and I feel like that's really great. Like he's always willing to just say yes. But I love Theo. We know Theo from the challenge, and he was also on JSR Survivor. He's made a final on JSR the challenge, and he doesn't do too bad either on his challenge seasons. He usually goes pretty far. Um, yeah, Theo's game style is, I don't know how to describe it.
Well, speaking from someone like Theo was like my like final two in JS Survivor, I think he's more like under the radar.
Yeah.
Usually works with like bigger threats. Like
Mhm.
it was like in our season, like Carson and Nick were in that alliance. So like obviously those are like big names there. So yeah, you work with kind of like surrounding yourself, insulate with others, and then hopefully, go farther in the game. But sometimes that can also backfire because if the big targets are safe, they're gonna go after their allies. So you
Right.
kind of have to, is it worth it sometimes?
That's what I was trying to describe, because I feel like that is what I've noticed with Theo as well, is that he surrounds himself with those big names. Like we saw him on J Survivor, and he was in an alliance with you and Carson and Alicia, um,
Nick.
and Nick. So we had all that alliance, who are all the bigger threats in that game. And he can just sit back and let them be targets and be a shield for him. I feel like where Theo kind of has a weakness is he's not very good individually. He's a really good partner. He's very like does well, like can match you where you are. Like his first season of JSR the Challenge, he was partnered with Josie, and they got second place, And Josie's a really strong physical player, where Theo kind of like lacks in physicalness and like in his gameplay, but can keep up with you if you're good. So I feel like where this game is a little bit individual, is he going to be able to kind of like stand out enough to be able to get the power to like make decisions, but also not get killed by traitors?
Right. And I think this wasn't aired in the episode, and it won't be for any of the people who were a little bit more of a last minute addition. The morning of, we had a few last minute drops, and Theo was one of the people who filled in. And so, although yes, they weren't really in the running when we chose our traders because we had a full cast before we had drops. A lot of people, I think, took that into consideration and kind of like automatically cleared Theo and the other two last minutes who also were Noel and Leak. But it doesn't take away from being recruit. So I don't think it plays too much into it, but I definitely think in terms of the original traders, it definitely helped clear their name a little bit. So I do think they have that to their advantage.
Was there anybody else from JS Survivor that we didn't talk about, or was that everyone? Oh, Alicia.
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 Alicia is another person that, like Nick, a lot of people thought she would be a traitor.
Yes.
She's be like a villain, she's her first ever.
She was kind of like in a villain era. She was really talked about around the time that we were filming this. So I feel like a lot of people kind of like did expect her to kind of like be that name that we would choose.
Yeah, and like her track record, she was JSR 27, her first debut season, she was third place. She's played, and if you look at her track record, she has a big track record in JSR.
She's played every spinoff that we've had.
Oh, yeah, just about. She was in JSR The Circle, JSR The Challenge, JSR Squid Games, JSR Big Brother, JSR Survivor. She has made her way around here. Has she won any of them?
No.
No, but
that queen.
there's always a first time. So it'd be interesting to see if people, I know a lot of the fans and viewers were saying that they might think she's a traitor, but it's interesting to see if the people in the game would think that too.
Well, and I think similar to Sky, Alicia is also one that will like say what she's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So are the traders in trouble if she has a theory? I don't know if she'll keep it to herself, we'll have to see.
But that's also kind of, I feel like the risky part of this game is, as someone who's played 2 seasons of a Traders game and has been the most outspoken faithful, and spreads the theories, there's risk in it. And the right person has to be that player that is the outspoken one in a trader's game. Because if it's not the right person that's doing it, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So is Alicia the right person for that role? Kind of like that kind of game style. We'll have to see.
Yeah, and
Go ahead, Jeremy. Please go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna segue, so you can go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, not really in terms of like Alicia, but just like that player as like a character in general. I think a lot of the times that character is written off as someone who like the traders need to kill or like they're doing too much. But I think we've yet to see in the traders games that I've hosted the traders really latching on to that person. And they just kind of like stay away. And so I feel like it'd be interesting to see if Alicia does play into that or anybody else, how these traders react to that type of player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Speaking from my experience from that in that type of scenario, the most recent trader game that I played outside of this game, I was like a more outspoken faithful, and one of the traders latched on to me and had me convinced that she was faithful, and
Yeah.
I was telling her everything that I thought, which wasn't her. So she just kept me around. So and it worked in her favor. She got to the
Right.
until I killed her at the end. But besides that, I wanted to speak about one of Alicia's also known for her rivalries around this community. And
Yeah.
I know one of her big rivalries is Jendea. And we have Jendea in the cast. So Jendea is hold on, I just got a notification we're running out of time. Let me upgrade real quick. Wait, no, wait. I'll start talking about Jendea. But yeah, Jendea is another person who's played a lot of JSR games. She was JSR 28 runner-up. She was a JSR the Circle winner. She's a JSR the Challenge finalist.
Finalist.
So
finalist, actually, I think.
So she's made her way around too, and she is another person who's very outspoken. She will tell you what she's feeling, but she's also very strategical. I feel like
She is.
she works a lot behind the scenes just as much as she is in front of the scenes. So
She has a great political game. That girl knows the moves to make and when to make them. And it also doesn't help that she has an amazing personality that people just genuinely like. Like she's just one of those people that you just genuinely like and you like talking to, just because she's that cute, bubbly girl and she has, that thick accent and you just love talking to her. So I feel like she's set up pretty well into this cast. She's pretty connected to a lot of these people. So I feel like she has probably one of the more easier rides to the end than a lot of people on the cast.
I would not necessarily counter that, but I think when you think of Jendea and you think of who she normally works with and who her close allies are, none of them are really here, which I think is really, really great for Jen, just because we know that kind of core group of JSR. If any more than 3 of them are on this cast, even just 3 of them are on this cast, are going to get jumped. So I think Jen being detached from the people that she normally works with is going to be really good. But it
helps her to be able to stand out a little bit, because I feel like oftentimes when she's with that kind of group of people, she kind of like falls into the shadows and you don't really get to see her. So now she's getting that opportunity to really stand out and be kind of that front runner in the spotlight.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch her. That's Mother. I know she's gonna clip all of these compliments we're giving her. But Jen, we love you.
It's gonna do the rounds on Twitter.
No, really.
Who else do we have? Jendea.
Why don't we talk about some JSR Lounge members that kind of got pulled into the game? Let's talk about our rookies. Yeah, we got Noelle and League, right?
And those were the other 2 last minute additions to the game outside of Theo. So yeah, let's talk about them, because they're rookies to JSR, but they're not rookies to these games. They're
not
at all.
Both very, very powerful players in their own respective ways.
Yeah, I think Noelle, can we curse on the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. I'm trying to get monetized or whatever. But I fucking love Noelle. He is such a fun person to just like play the game with. He's very good at oh my God, Noelle, please do not kill me for saying this. I think he does a really good job of kind of putting on a front of like not knowing what's going on or kind of being like confused a little bit and like, oh, I'm just like here for vibes. I'm eating my bagel. But he knows what he's doing. He's so smart. I hosted him in a Survivor speed over in my org community and he ended up winning and he didn't have like a huge connection to a lot of the cast. He was like brand new. It was his debut season in the network. So, and he ended up winning. He did a really great job. And then again, he comes from Twitter, so he knows how to navigate these live games. He knows, and I really truly think that's gonna be like such a huge upper hand on these people who aren't used to playing in a live format. But I'm really, really excited to see Noelle go far. But seeing Justice like clock him for the bagel, I'm like, girl, Noelle, like get up, please get up.
And I'm gonna tell you this, Ava, that is just the beginning of Bagel Gates.
Oh, great.
Bagelgate. Hashtag Bagelgate.
But yeah, no, Noel is a strategical king. He
Yeah.
knows how to play these games. He is always looking for the right moves to make and the right things to say. And I'm excited that even though he was a last minute addition, I knew he would be a great addition to the cast.
Mhm.
And then we have Mr. Leek, who is another infamous, outspoken, chaotic player.
To say
Not
the least.
very strategic at all.
Don't even get me started.
So one time
But-
I personally have played with League. Oh, that was Charlie, you played too. Me
I
and
did.
Jeremy.
We have all played a few games with Leek before.
Any legitimate game that I've played with League, automatically he just starts fighting me specifically. But he just has
Keisha.
no. All he does is put a target on me and his own back. But that's besides the point. I don't expect anything less.
Yeah. I think that Leek is just gonna get foot and mouth syndrome the entire game. And I'm just like interested to see if he's gonna be kind of that player that gets killed easily because they're like, dude, get the fuck out of here. Or if he's gonna be that kind of player that they just like drag along because they're like, this dude is just bad and we don't know. Like we don't have to worry about him, you know? So I wonder like what that's gonna look like for Leek.
Well,
He brings entertainment. He's funny.
He's very funny.
But I don't expect a lot of strategy from Leek.
Well, we already saw in the freaking mission, he was bobbing his head nowhere near out. Yeah.
He was looking for a hack, but it's not work.
Like Danny said that Leek should have gone for the shield, and I totally agree. Leek did not know what he was doing in that game.
No. And then who's next?
Well, let's go to Danny because Danny was a big topic.
Danny, do we want to talk about Danny and Jabin as a duo?
Well, let's talk about Danny first because Danny was a big topic for this episode, especially towards the end. We had the Danny counter. I think it was over 10 times that Danny was mentioned, and that was just in the edit. In the real thing, they were going off.
They were talking about Danny a lot that first round. They were talking about Danny a lot.
But and Baylor started the conversation. He said it's weird that Danny went for the shield, and everybody started jumping on that. Do you guys think it's weird to go for a shield?
No.
Night one? No way.
I will say
you got to do it.
Ava just watched me play a pretty dominant Traders game. And one of my storylines was getting into a rivalry with a guy because he was taking shields. I think that there's a way to go about taking shields that isn't disrespectful or isn't kind of like shield hoggy or kind of like selfish. But I don't think that Danny was in the wrong this episode.
I'm just confused because, and like maybe you guys can give me some prod insight on this, but like everyone was down Danny's throat, and then like it was quiet when it came to Theo. Like nobody gave a fuck that Theo had the shield, but everybody was jumping Danny. Like that was a little weird. It was giving like we know Theo, so like we're cool with it, but like a newbie, he got a shield. I don't know if he has like a ton of JSR experience or whatever, but
yeah,
I just thought that was like me and Jackson were watching, tuned in, like.
I agree. I think it was a little weird. And it kind of goes back a little bit on Theo's behalf where he was late. So I think people were more accepting of the idea that he was already a faithful.
And I
So
think that people were okay
Okay,
with
okay.
Theo taking it because of the fact that he was late and he kind of like already had a target a little bit on his back. Like they were afraid of him having a target on his back. So I
so
think that they were kind of okay with him getting that shield.
It's giving dumb, stupid reason. Like
yeah, yeah.
I can like
Yeah,
genuinely
do we agree
Yeah.
that he shouldn't have been talked about as much as Danny? No. We think that he should also have been kind of like looked at the same way, but we see the reasoning why they weren't considering that.
Especially
that's fine. Go ahead, Jeremy. You keep getting cut off.
I was gonna say, especially considering that Theo can be recruited, like it doesn't make a difference who got the
Yeah.
shield early. But
Just
I
very,
don't
I don't know. I don't get it. I don't
yeah,
get
in
it.
the faithful in the traders games that I've played, I've gone for the shield every single time, whether I'm a trader or a faithful. I want to win, I want to be safe.
Mhm.
Like if you're playing for a cash prize, you don't go for it, especially like night one. Like the only traders game I ever played, I got like second boot. And I'm like, you would do anything to avoid that. Like you get all hyped to play, you don't want to go home first. So
I don't
I
know.
would do the
In
same thing
my
as Danny.
opinion, when I've played traders games, because I've played two as a faithful, um, I feel like I've always played as a team player. And I'm like, we need to do as much as we can to like be a team and like work as a team. And so those people who I anything that I hate more than a traitor is a faithful who's selfish. And because you're not helping me get to the end. So if you're just being selfish and you're taking all these shields, I need you gone. Because you're not helping me. You're not trying to help the team. You just want to help yourself.
Well, girl, not everyone can get to the end.
Well, we need to work together. And you're not working with me, you're working against me. I don't even
Okay,
care.
so then all right, so then why didn't well, we already agree they should have, but why didn't they say the same thing for Theo? He didn't help the team.
That's
Right.
what I'm saying. Like, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying I would have said something about Theo too.
Mhm. I think also and I don't know, did they get a lot of time to chat before the mission, like when they were in the teams, or were they just like thrown into it?
Oh, actually, so no, there was some introduction time where we spoke, and then they had little icebreakers, but nothing really into deep to.
But not
They
like,
had they had a birthday toast for like a little bit because it was Keisha's birthday.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, maybe this like kind of debunks that a little bit, but I also find it strange because they are jumping right into like just a nighttime. They're not jumping into a round table. We don't know if it's a recruitment or if it's a murder. So I feel like gunning for the shield this time, knowing that you don't know what's going on, I think it's so warranted. If I was in Danny's position, I would do the same fucking thing.
Yeah,
Like,
me
I don't
too.
want to be the first boot. That's so
No,
embarrassing.
yes.
Yeah.
That's so embarrassing. I would understand it more like maybe going into like night two because a shield's not going to save you from a round table vote. But like,
Yeah.
girl, you don't know what's going on. Get the shield.
I
Save
will
yourself.
say,
I'm
like,
Team
I will
Danny.
say, I do hold the record for most shields in a season in the Betrayers. Like, I will say, like,
Girl.
I do hold that record for 3 shields. It's 3 shields in one season. Like, I do hold that record, but I only ever took shields if other people were okay with me taking that shield.
Well, girl, we have time to talk about who was okay with having the damn shield.
I felt like I just because I knew that it could put a target on your back for taking shields. So I'm like, I don't want you to be mad at me for doing this. And so I did. I would only do it if I knew people weren't going to get mad at me for it.
I don't
Well,
know.
to each their own. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
night
agree.
one.
I
Night
think
one, I don't give a shit who cares if I take it or
Yeah.
not. Like I'm doing
In the
it.
game-
Louder, Emily.
In the
Louder.
game, like if I was playing this round, I would have been like, no, I don't really care. Like it's the first round. Like we don't really know where people's like alliances lie. So I would have been like, okay, it's whatever. But I would have also been like, okay, if we're talking about Danny, let's also talk about Theo. I feel like that's where we kind of all agree.
Yeah, I agree with that. But let's speak a little bit about Danny outside of the scenario as well. Danny is for yeah, Abe, I don't believe you know Danny, but I've actually known Danny since like almost like 2015, 2016. We used to play Big Brother Kick back in the day. I think I was like a Final Two alliance with Danny at one point. But Danny is an explosive player. Danny will speak his mind and not back down from it at all. He was actually on the unaired season of JSR OC2, and he was through and through with what I just said. He was calling people out, getting in fights. The first week with the first HOH, he got into an argument with. So, and I wouldn't like we cast him because we know he's gonna bring the entertainment. But anybody else have anything to say about Danny before?
I like Danny.
Yep,
I think they're very
agreed.
entertaining. And I'm excited to see like how that dynamic continues to grow because we all know once you have that target on your back already, especially week one, unless you can reposition yourself, you're not going very far. So I hope that he can reposition himself into the game and kind of like bring that threat level down.
Well, do you think that having someone so close as to him as Javen is a good thing or a bad thing?
It depends on how the cast views it. Because for me, because I've been in those ride or die pairs before. I'm constantly in games with Jeremy, who's a ride or die pair that I'm constantly in, and we're constantly targeted because of that. But with Javen and Danny, it's how is the cast going to view that dynamic? Because they're both very outspoken players. We know that they both have really good social games, but the cast, I don't think really knows them that well.
I think that's a benefit. Like if I'm playing as like a new person, no one like if like say y'all two are playing together, like y'all probably be targeted because people know you're playing together. But Javen and Danny, like if you're not from BB Instagram, you're not gonna know that they're like best friends. And I think that's an advantage. Having one person that you know if they're a traitor isn't gonna kill you, and if they're faithful and you're faithful too, is never gonna vote for you. That's I think a good advantage to have.
I think the hard part when it comes to navigating duos, and I speak as someone who gets attached to Iman every time I play with her, which can be fun, can be not fun, is you have to be very calculated with how you approach it because while hiding it and just trying to like go for them under like other bonds can be helpful. If somebody catches whiff that you guys know each other and you chose to withhold that information from the cast, automatically the whole cast is gonna be like, oh, that's us. And in a game where suspicion is the main strategy, I don't know if it's necessarily the biggest deal, especially when we're dealing with a cast who has years and years of pregame relationships built up. Like all these people who have their duos, they have trios, they have what 6 people play JSR Viber together. Mind you, they didn't all work together, but it's all at least knowing someone. I think it wouldn't be too detrimental if people knew that they were together, just because I'd rather work with somebody who I know only has one person than work with somebody who I know has 6 others. I want to be as high on people's trust ranking as possible. And so if I can snag that number 2 spot instead of that number 7 spot, babe, I'm taking it. Like I'm taking it. So I think it'll be really good. And I think what Emily said about having a betrayer who you know won't kill you or a faithful who's going to vote with you is super important in these games. Hosting the traitors, I know that those small groups are what do very well. Once you try to get too many people involved, it's just going to become like a huge fucking mess. So I think it's good that Danny has Javen, especially with how this edit went, him being like the main character of the episode, I would say. Him being able to go to someone that he already knows and being able to bounce thoughts off each other. And especially if Javen gets whiff of people like throwing his name like of that sus, it's going to be good for Danny to know he has a reliable like vessel of information.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the only people on this cast that actually would be aware of the Danny Javen relationship is Jendea because Jendea was also on that unaired season with both Javen and Danny. And then I believe Alicia has awareness or connections to them through either Instagram or something of the sort. So yeah, I agree with everything you guys are saying. I also think it really helps. Sometimes in a round table, all you need is one person to vouch for you, and that can help everybody believe you're faithful. But at the same time, it can automatically put a target on you guys. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
And then I think we also just need to mention some old school players. We got Marissa and Baylor. We've yet to address them if we want to talk about them.
So
Okay.
More old school players.
let's talk about Marissa. Marissa, I feel like was the nice girl of the episode. Like she was the sweet, innocent girl. But she's a lawyer, she's an attorney.
The lawyer.
So
She has that poker face on lock.
right. And so she was in my first ever Discord season that I hosted. Baylor was also in that game. But I think a little known connection that I don't even think Marissa was aware of, but she also was in the same game that Carson won.
One, yeah.
I don't know if she remembers that she was like second boot in that game, but I was curious to see if they would pick up on the connection. Um, but so that was something. But I've known Marissa since I was 14 years old. I went to high school with her, and so it's interesting to see her play these games, knowing her since we were kids, and it's just exciting for me. I think she's a great person, a great player. So it's always fun to see that. But I don't know if you guys have any opinions on the nice girl of the game.
Well, I guess what I'm curious is, so we know that Keisha and Marissa are both kind of like from the same area, like they're kind of living in
And
the
the
same
same job.
area,
Yeah.
and they have the same job. Do we think that'll potentially influence anything? Do we think it's like a red herring, like, oh, it's not really important? What do y'all think about that?
I will say for the audience that's listening, Marissa said she's from West Palm Beach, but she also lives in Chicago now. I don't think she mentioned that in the episode, which is where Keisha also lives, and Bill also lives in Chicago.
True. I think, I mean, if I don't know, if they get the chance to speak and actually, hey, I'm an attorney here over in Chicago. Oh, me too. Then I think that would be like an automatic connection, I feel like. But Keisha also, not to go back to Keisha, but like she doesn't care. Like
Yeah,
she will kill whoever she needs to, and I think that's why she's a perfect trader.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if Keisha.
I've never seen Marissa play
She was she was
sure.
runner up in the Discord season she
on
played.
season 14
Oh,
The
to,
first season she
to
played.
Nick, right? To Nick
Yeah,
Luna.
Nick. So she knows
Yeah,
how to
I've
play.
never seen Marissa play, but I
me
did
neither.
love like watching her this little first cycle of her, just to see kind of like where she's in because it's been a while since we've seen Marissa and Baylor almost. I think, well, Baylor's been a little bit more recent. I think Baylor was on at least one of the more recent JSR seasons, but it has been a while since we've seen Marissa. So I'm excited to see what she can do, and kind of like coming out of recruitment for anybody is really hard. Like, you kind of are a little rusty at first, so I'm excited to see like if she can shed that kind of like rust off and really get into the game.
Did you mean retirement?
Yeah, like rust, like you're just a little rusty.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But
Mhm.
Baylor was also in that game, and Baylor for me is also somebody I've known since I was like 12. Um,
Yeah, me too.
so I've known Baylor for a long time. We have a few connections over the years, but the main connection that always like kept us in contact was Big Brother. So I'm always excited to see him play. He knows the strategy. He knows these games. He's studied the games. So he always knows how to implement them into the games that he's playing.
Agreed. Baylor got me into Discord, so like, all that always be like like that always be like my OG right there. So it was cool to like recruit him and get him to play this game because, like Carlos said, he played a Big Brother game like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But I feel like Traders, obviously, we know is completely different. So I'm excited to see Baylor play a different format of game and a lot more recent too. Because, like Jeremy said, they all start playing these games when like high school, like middle high school. It's been like a while. So a lot changes then and now.
Mhm.
Yeah, Baylor is another one that I have not really seen play either, but I just know a lot about. I was really excited to see Baylor on this cast and see how he does, just because they're probably the most least connected, just because of the fact that they both have been in retirement. So I'm excited to see where they can kind of like put themselves into the cast.
I know Baylor from JSR Squid Games. I'm like almost certain I sent him home in the marbles round because I tricked him into doing a ball sort puzzle with me, but I'm not but I'm
Damn.
not 100% sure. But I think as a viewer, he was one of the newbies that I didn't really know much about, who I was very excited just watching him. I mean, he's very articulate and is a very smart speaker. He's not just saying things with no intentions behind him. I think he has a very strategic way of thinking, which I hopefully will get to watch a lot more of. I really like him. I think he could develop into a really big character in the series. I think, however, being kind of the first person to throw just any name this season might come back to haunt him as trying to be like a ringleader of the faithful. And we see in all the faithful season or trader seasons and on Discord, kind of the ringleader gets the brunt of the betrayers targeting, in my opinion. So I'm hopeful that maybe he can throw some names, get his hand in the mix here and there, and then maybe take a step back. So I would really, really love to watch more of him as the season goes on.
Is there anybody else left, or is Justice the last person we have?
No, there's a couple other people. I know we brushed over Danny and Javen.
Yeah, we did.
I don't think we really talked about Javen.
We did not.
We did. Oh, I thought we did. Okay.
Well, yeah, Javen, again, like I mentioned before, he was in that unaired season of JSR on cam, and I can share these placements now because it's never going to air, but he was fourth place, and he and Danny were a duo in that game, as expected, and again, wasn't afraid to call shit out. He said what he had to say, and he got into a few fights, some very long fights too, long-winded fights, and I think that we should expect that from him if he has something to say.
Yeah, I've never really seen Javen play before either. But what I do know is that he's very outspoken, he's very loud. And so I'm excited to see kind of where he is. But like we've kind of discussed a little bit, those big personalities are either a strength or they're a major weakness. So is him being outspoken going to work for him, or is he going to be an early boot?
Well, I think
that would work. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was going to say real quick too, something interesting to note is me and Emily actually played a traders game that Danny and Javen hosted together. So it'll be interesting to see how they take hosting a traders game and bring it into playing a traders game, because we had played that game before they played this game.
I was just going to say, I think that might be beneficial to Danny more so than to Javen, how outspoken he is. I don't know if maybe he's more outspoken than Danny. Maybe we'll get to see that in future episodes. But I think in the position that Danny's in right now specifically, if Javen kind of goes hard on the defense and is really vocal about that, I think that would be Danny's saving grace, even though it's his number one ally, shifting that target to Javen from him. It's all about surviving in this game, and I don't know about you guys, but I kind of always do what I have to do to get by, and that is at the expense of my ally, then sorry, girl.
Love it.
Well, Emily, did you want to say anything?
No.
Okay. Well, I also speaking of little calling shit out, it was kind of like not really a call out, but we saw awkward interactions between David and Claudine, Carson and Claudine, Noelle and Claudine.
We didn't talk about Claudine. Yeah.
No, you forgot about her like everyone else was not talking about. Right.
Claudine Clan, stand up.
Let's talk about Claudine. Like, what for me, the
she was struggling.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully she gets better. After this episode, but that was a struggle to see. No one wanted to with her.
Was that like tech issues, or was that her just her being a little?
Oh, it was from the game. It was a mixture of both. But when she was on, she wasn't saying anything.
Okay.
She was very confused. I feel like she didn't understand what
is she like an org rookie or
no? She's played JSR before,
but she isn't like she played JSR Big Brother, but she was like second boot. She was in the season that you played, Ava.
Oh.
Wait, she was?
Ava not even on the season, also forgetting Claudine is
oh my god.
Crazy.
But yes, she was second.
No, because as soon as you said she played JSR, I said, uh-oh. I knew.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, she is someone that I've known another person I've known in real life since I was like 18. I went to college with her. And she's one of the funniest people you could ever meet.
She's
But-
so funny.
But this episode, she was just, I mean, it was funny, don't get me wrong, but it was not in the way that she probably wanted to present
It
it.
was unintentional. It was unintentional.
I don't know if this was in the episode, but there was like a part. There was like a few moments where like they were calling her by the wrong name.
Oh,
Yeah.
They were like Claudia.
They were calling her
they
Claudia.
Like, they were just like nobody knew who she was. They were like, "Who is this person? Like, who's this Claudia person?" or something like that.
No, because that literally makes me remember when we were playing Big Brother together, she wasn't in the server for the whole first round.
Oh yes.
She wasn't in the server. And we were like,
Oh,
okay.
no.
And we like didn't evict her the first HOH. I don't know why. And then second, she like literally joined the day of eviction. And she like put in the house chat. She was like, so what's everyone doing? We're like, baby, you're on the block and you're about to go home. Like, I don't know. I'm so sorry.
Savage.
She's queen. She's so queen though.
Yeah.
I want to see her get a fair shot. Like I want to see her get the opportunity. So I hope that it picks up for her a little bit.
And wasn't she like in a hotel? Like, am I misremembering?
I
Or
think she was like on
filming, like in a hotel or
room
Oh,
something.
no,
something?
she was in the Boston Public Library filming.
That's right. That's camp. That's camp.
Yeah, I think like just as a viewer, I think if I had, she was really the only person that I would say, and girl, if you're watching, I hate to say this, she was like the only one who was like really giving like first boot energy. Like unless some crazy shit happens at the round table, just with my experience hosting the traders, normally the person who just has like the lack of social ability is gonna go home first, just so you can focus that time on building those bonds rather than trying to fucking do a crazy split vote or some crazy plan. But I know it's JSR, expect the unexpected, so I don't know.
Right. And was there anybody else left besides Justice or?
Let me double check. I think besides Justice, I think we've covered everyone. Hold up.
The sunglasses on bald.
Tisha, Sky, Zendaya, Norris, Noel, Javen. Yeah,
Did we talk about Norris?
I don't know if we went into depth with
We
Norris.
did. We talked about Nick and Norris at the same time.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't
Well,
know. So
add to Norris's case, I think Norris is also a very strategical player. He played a duo season, JSR 26, and his duo was,
Not good.
for lack of better words, no, I'll just say
Inactive.
he was very inactive. And Norris carried that duo
Carried to final two.
so much so to final two, so much so that we gave Norris an
Like,
honorary
Honorary win.
like,
The jury kind of robbed Norris a little bit.
yeah, like we get it. It was a duos game, and you didn't have a full duo, but
one that season.
it was
Kyle and
Kyle
Claire.
and Claire.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Irrelevant.
But yeah, I do love Norris. I love watching Norris play.
Good.
Yeah, no, Norris is a trip every time. He is like he brings it to the confessionals, whether it's on cam or in Discord. He is always trying to be strategical. Like he's one of my favorite people to watch play these games because he's just entertaining to watch play. But yeah, that's what I have to say about Norris. And then we'll move on to the potential recruit of the season.
Potential recruit. Yeah, in the episode we see at the end, we see the traders discuss who they would like to recruit. And they both immediately had a really good feeling about Justice and feel like Justice could be a good player for their game and for their team. If you guys don't know Justice, she made her debut on JSR The Challenge as a rookie on JSR Battle of the Seasons. And
I won.
Home.
That I
Which-
won.
Home.
which Team Vendettas won. Go Team Vendettas. We love Team Vendettas, our OGs. And she kind of had like she was kind of a standout player, a standout rookie. I mean, there were only 4 rookies on that team with 28 veterans who all hated each other. So she actually beat Ava in an elimination.
Okay, I would actually like to
Oh.
say she dragged my boyfriend into elimination against me, and he wouldn't fucking throw for me. So fuck you, Tristan, for not throwing elimination to me. By the way. And she literally ghosted him. She forced him into elimination because he didn't want to go into elimination against me because I was his girlfriend, and she forced him in. And that Tristan's a fucking robot, so of course he beat me and Lorenzo's flop ass. Like that shit was that was fucked.
That was
And
crazy.
yeah, so she was kind of more of the leader on that team on that season. She was really gung ho, like let's really do this, like let's really get in there, let's play this game. She really wanted to stand toe to toe with the veterans, and she kind of proved that. She went into an elimination. She won one, and then she won a daily challenge, and then was eliminated about halfway through. I think a little bit over halfway through. So she's not bad. She's never played an org before that either. Never played an org before. I asked her to play. She was a friend of mine from Savannah when I was living in Savannah. Yeah, and then she played JSR Viver, was first boot because she was kind of inactive. So that's kind of where she was. She's a great person. She's an actress. She does theater for a living, and is just a fun person. We saw so much of her personality this episode within her confessionals. She is such a confessional queen we've seen, and I feel like she has such a good read on the game already. Just like is already like, oh, this person's suspicious. This person is this or whatever. Like is already like having that kind of like strategic like kind of mindset of like I'm looking at everything of what people are saying. So I feel like it's really cool that the traders kind of like saw her early on and were like, she could be someone that's really good.
I do have a question. So when they were in the breakout rooms, how long did they have in there?
I think we did 5 minutes.
Oh, so it was short.
Yeah, I think we did like 5 minutes.
The traders had 10 minutes to talk in their own trader dungeon, but the
Mhm.
breakout rooms and the general breakout rooms were 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay, good for her. She put out those good vibes, she said.
And well, it's funny too because like Carlos said or Charlie said good reads, but is calling somebody out for eating a bagel a good read?
Well, I meant like entertaining reads, I guess.
Yes, yeah. And I want to say, yeah, like I think Ava said that like Danny was like a standout faithful in this episode. I would say that Justice was probably one of the other standout faithfuls in terms of, she's already causing drama. She's starting shit. Her confessionals are good. She said she wants Claudine dead. Like
And giggled and giggled.
like,
She's too good.
Just remind me, is this recruitment, or death? Or is
Yes.
it okay, okay. Okay, well.
well,
Do we
we
think she said
don't
yes?
know
Or
what
is it-
will happen.
Yeah.
happen.
First boo. Come on.
We don't know
Right.
what will happen, but one can
Do you think that they made the right decision, Ava?
yeah,
Who would you, if you were Keisha and Carson, who would be the top three that you would have talked about to choose from?
I think ruling out a lot of the people with pre-existing connections was a good move for them. I think Carson has come into this game with people with him, and I think Keisha also have those people. And I think that eliminates like a majority of the cast. So out of the people left, I do think I think Carson said it was really smart. Like she is very commanding when she speaks. She's very articulate, very eloquent, and I think this will be a good middle ground. Like I said earlier, I think Carson and Keisha can both be people who are extremely vocal, and Carson is such like a fucking burst of energy. And so I think Justice will be a really great sense of what am I trying to say? Like she's like she could be very mellow for them. And I think she'll be able to work that under the radar strategy as a trader, where I don't think Keisha or Carson are really going to excel at that type of strategy. And so I think they really round her out well. I think if we weren't gonna pick her, I think I would have maybe gone with what's his name? No, what is his name? Baylor. I think Baylor would have been a good pick. And like I'm not even a huge Sky fan, but I think Sky would have been a really great pick too.
Mm-hmm.
Just I think she would balance them out pretty well. So those would be my other picks if I wasn't gonna pick Justice.
When we were discussing like who we were going to pick, and we had like settled on Keisha and Carson, we had also settled on the idea that we were going to do a night one recruitment. We were like, we really hope it's Justice. Like we were like, we really hope it's Justice because we had seen Justice's intro video, and we thought that she would be a really good character, like you said, to round that kind of like trio up. And so I remember us watching that recruitment discussion happening, and me and Jeremy are just like, yes, 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 because we really, really wanted them to pick Justice.
Yeah.
Too late.
I think they made the best choice that they could have with given what
Hmm.
they had.
And what they knew,
Hmm.
which wasn't much.
No, it wasn't much at all. Well, let's, before we get to the end of this, let's also talk about well, I want to bring up one thing too. When you mentioned Baylor again and messing up his name, I remember that in the episode, Javen was calling out Baylor with the parentheses faithful in his
Mm,
Zoom name. Do I mean, as a viewer, we obviously know Baylor's just like having fun with it and it's a joke. No one's gonna put faithful in their name and take it seriously. But in this game, is it something to take seriously, you think? Maybe with so little to go off of, but
I
I think
can.
it's hard in the traders to take the meta out of everything just because it's a game that's foundation is built on paranoia and lies and deception. So I think especially early on when there's so many people and such few things that you have to go off of, that doing small things like that isn't necessarily dumb, but it's not necessarily smart either. I think in the early game, you kind of just need to be neutral and just kind of feel everything out and not really try to make waves. And while he probably didn't put that in his name to be like, I'm a faithful wink, like people are going to be grasping at straws just like they're grasping at straws with the bagel, grasping at straws with Danny taking the shield. There's not going to be a ton of things with solid foundations that you're going to be able to throw and use as facts to really call out a trader. So I don't think it's necessarily a stupid thing to call out and kind of put in the back of your mind. Do I think it's going to cause like a very baseless throw at a round table? Probably. But it's the early game. There's not a lot to go off of, like I've been saying. So I don't know. I don't really blame them, but it is what it is. You've got to try to work with what you got.
And do you think Javen just kind of did that as a right back at you at Baylor for calling out Danny? Like, do we think it was just kind of like
Maybe I think it
to
is
get
smart.
even, maybe?
Yeah, and I do think it is smart just in the terms of if that's what we're using going into the next roundtable. I don't know if we have a mission or kind of what the next round holds, but taking how big is the cast?
17.
17. Taking that from 17 different options down to 2 is going to make more for cohesion in conversations. People are going to be more streamlined, whereas it's like the first merge tribal in Survivor. You have so many options, so many pre-existing relationships that you have to navigate. So if you can narrow that down to 2 names, I think that's going to be really helpful, not only to Javen, Danny, and Baylor, but the whole cast in making a decision. But I don't really know what. So do we move into a mission? Or I guess you can't really tell me because I don't know if Justice dies or not.
No, we could tell you. So, the next episode, the first murder will be revealed. And then of course we have the recruitment happening, and then I think the mission, and then if I'm not mistaken, then the round table.
Then yeah, they have the round table. Well, they had breakout rooms and then they
Oh
go
yeah,
to
and breakout rooms too.
Mhm.
Are breakout rooms always 5 minutes?
Yeah,
Or
they
no?
did 5 minutes the whole game. Yeah.
Oh, that's nasty. That's crazy.
Well, we helped them out because, and this is something I probably won't do continuing forward in future seasons. We extended the time a lot on these.
Yeah, like if they were really discussing and using the time, we would give them like a few extra minutes.
And especially later in the season, disgusting is an understatement. They are fighting. But yeah, so for the lack of breakout rooms, they made up for it in the roundtables. Everyone says what they have to say.
Cool.
But we'll move on to at the end of the episode, we saw some of the people that the faithfuls were starting to suss out a little bit. Just to name a couple, I know Bill said he was sus of Nick and Sky. Sky said she was sus of Marissa. Alicia said Baylor. But I think Norris actually called it correctly on a couple of them. I didn't write it down, so I'm forgetting. But I think he said Carson and
And
Keisha.
Keisha.
Yeah. So Norris clocked it in that first episode. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. If he calls it out, if he gets killed, what happens.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm excited for that too.
Yeah.
Um, we could like talk over some like predictions that we normally see happen in a trader season and see what Ava thinks. One of those being we oftentimes see traders go after one another or have to throw another trader under the bus. Who, if justice says yes, and we see them become the three betrayers or the three traitors, um, who do you think would be the first to take a shot at one of their fellow traitors?
That is a really great question. Uh, I don't think it would be Justice. I think just based off what I know about her, I think she'll excel in kind of again taking that back seat in the turret and kind of just going with the flow. Um, Man, just going off my previous experience playing a lot of games with both Carson and Keisha, I'm gonna say Keisha. Um, just because she did it to me. We were in an alliance together. She heard that her name was out there and she threw me as the counter name. She ended up going home though, so hopefully that doesn't happen again. Well, actually, I don't know. I like Carson, but I think Keisha is very similar to me in the fact that she will do anything to survive. If she has to throw her fellow trader, she's going to, but I don't think it's going to be an integral part of her strategy. I don't think she's just going to go into a random round table and be like, I think it's Carson. And I don't think she would ever throw Justice just based off of what I know now. I think it would come down to Carson either throwing Keisha or Keisha throwing Carson. And I think I could very well see her throwing Carson and that backfiring on her just because based on again playing with both of them a lot, I think Carson has a more sound social game and knows how to really insulate himself with very loyal people. Whereas Keisha, I think she keeps her circle way smaller. And in this game, you need numbers to survive. And so I think that could come to bite her in the ass. But I don't know. It's hard to say. I do know Keisha, they're both pretty loyal people until they like aren't in a position to not be anymore. So I don't know. It's a good question.
So, kind of piggybacking off of that, then,
Mm-hmm.
in the hypothetical that those three are the traders, rank them in terms of how you think they'll place in the game, or at least maybe not placement, but like survive.
As traders,
Right.
um, I think Justice would go first. Just I don't know though. I could see her being a throw for being maybe like quiet. One thing I've noticed while we've gone over the cast is it's very polarizing. We have players like Nick who are pretty quiet, they keep to themselves, they're very, very social, and that's what they rely on of just being under the radar. But then we have these big names like Javen, Jendea, Danny, people like that who are very, very vocal. And so I think this cast is going to have a hard time finding that middle ground of like, oh, here's my throw, but I'm just basing it off the facts. I think it's going to be very either aggressive or that easy side of the game where it's like, let's just vote somebody who doesn't really talk that much. Mm. So just because of that, I think I could see Justice going first, just because I don't know how well she's going to integrate socially. And then after that, just taking pregame relationships into account, I think Keisha would go and then Carson. Hot take, think we're going to have a faithful win.
Okay. And why do you think that?
I think while I do really love this group of traders, I think what they lack that a lot of the faithfuls have are those pregame relationships. And I know this community well. I know that the pregame relationship meta is going to be very intact. You're not going to see somebody in a JSR game that you know and be like, no, I don't really want to work with you. You're going to take allies where you can get them. I do that all the time. So I just think that there are people on this cast who are faithfuls who are much more insulated than the traders are. So I could see the faithful taking home a win here. Especially, I don't know, if some of my people can get on the same page who are faithfuls, I could see them doing very well.
So if you had to pick a winner pick or picks, who would you choose?
I don't know. That's really hard. How many people are at Final Fire? 3 or 4? It's 4, right? Is it final?
We won't
You don't,
spoil.
you don't have to tell me. I'm just thinking on the show. Well, in my game, it's 4 people. So I think Final Fire could be. Oh my god. I'm gonna say Marissa. That's her name, right? The lawyer, Queen. I think she's gonna queen out. I don't know. I just have a feeling. Watch, she's gonna fucking die next episode. Marissa. I need like an integral JSR person in there. I'll put Alicia in there.
Okay.
I'll do Marissa, Alicia. Let me pull up the cast list. Hold on. You know what? Let me put my man Bill in there. Bill and Sky, Alicia, Bill. Wait, did I say Sky? What did I say? Marissa, Sky. No. Marissa, Bill, Alicia. And you know what? I think they'll bring Carson and then vote him out at the first vote of fire. There's my winner.
Oh, okay. So you think Carson will be the only one to make finale?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
We'll note that down and compare it to the season.
Compare it when we see finale.
I just said the first 4 boots of the season. Yeah.
Imagine.
But I think that pretty much covers this first episode.
Yeah.
No.
Do you have any other thoughts? Any other predictions, Ava?
I think Nick G is gonna die early. I don't think he's gonna get voted off. I think he's gonna get murdered. I think Carson knows better. Nick G, I love you. I don't want you to die, but I think you will.
So next round we will see who gets murdered,
Mm-hmm.
and then at the end of the episode we'll see someone get banished.
Wait, so they're recruiting and they're murdering?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, wait. So it's she has to say yes.
She has to say yes, or she also dies.
It would have been
Oh,
if she says no, then it would be a double murder with the murder that's already happening.
okay.
Mm-hmm. So who do you think is murdered, and who do you think will be the first person banished?
First person banished, I think, is gonna be this girl. I can't even remember her name.
Claudia? No, I'm just kidding.
Claudine.
Claudine. Yeah. I'm so sorry, girl. But I don't think they would kill her because I feel like she's probably gonna get voted out.
Okay.
And then first murder, I think is gonna be somebody with a good bit of pre-existing relationships. My like first thought was Theo.
Okay.
I think that's like a really bad read though. I don't think it's gonna be him. It was just the first name that popped into my head. I think they'll either go like with a big name or they'll go with somebody who's not gonna cause a lot of waves if they're not here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like Leak. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Am I getting paid for this? I'm kidding.
Are we getting paid? No, I'm kidding.
You gotta win the draft first, Ava.
Yeah,
and
when
y'all viewers haven't drafted, it's still open, right?
leave
Yeah.
a comment on the YouTube and you can win a comment prize as well. There's giveaways for commenting.
Period.
But thank you for being here, everyone. I think this was it was longer than I expected, but it was a good deep dive into the cast and the first episode.
They won't all be this long.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But I think, as the episodes come on, we'll have more to say and it gets interesting. Like, and I've said this in comments. I don't know if I said it on here, but the season progressively gets better with every episode. And I feel like you don't see that often. Like with the first season that I ever edited, JSRC1, I knew that wasn't what was happening. But with this season, like I see it. The drama gets better. The comedy gets better. Like it's a good season. So I'm excited
What did
for.
you guys film for?
We filmed was maybe
Like 8 hours.
7-8 hours. Yeah.
Oh my god.
But we did it. We started at noon, so we didn't film all night.
Yeah.
We started at noon. It was like noon to like 8 p.m. or something.
Little known fact, Ava was supposed to be on the cast.
Stop.
Her ticket got lost. She got lost.
Honestly,
she got left at the airport.
I got lost. I missed my flight. I'm actually really sad that I ghosted you, Jeremy. I'm so sorry.
Maybe we'll see her in the future.
I know.
Let us know in the comments below. You want to see Ava? You want to see Ava?
I was a little worried that it was going to be a lot of people that I knew. But like there's really none. It's not a lot of people who I normally work with, so I think I would have had a lot of fun. I have some close allies on the cast. So
Yeah,
maybe I'll fly out to the castle for season 2. I don't know. Maybe come out of retirement.
I've heard a couple names, people throwing their names in the hat.
Some availability contracts have gone out a little bit.
Are we renewed for season 2?
Well, we're gonna see how season 1 goes. But I think we're off to a good start, and it's fun. You know, it's not something that takes off running. You have to build it up. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, thanks
All right,
everyone.
see y'all in
again.
the next one.
See you guys next episode. Watch episode 1. Let us know what you think below.
Yes, I'm gonna stop the recording.